Imagine turning on the TV and finding out there's no remote control, no Netflix, no YouTube, none of that. You turn on the TV and are forced to watch the same programs every day without a choice. But it can't be that bad, right? Spoiler, it is. It's terrible. The programming starts very early in the morning with the national anthem of the country. Flags, sacred mountains, and the faces of your great leaders staring at you from the screen. Then you have children's songs thanking the political party for the sun. Next, you have movies from the 80s, where the hero is always a worker from your country and the villain is a Japanese or American spy. News broadcasts where every international story is about how terrible the world outside is and how wonderful your country is. And many, many hours showing your leader visiting places and bringing happiness to the people. I know this all sounds like a strange dream, but it happens in real life. And I challenge myself to dive into this parallel universe and watch hours of North Korean TV. And what I discovered was beyond bizarre. It was even a little scary. This video isn't just about propaganda from a country, it's about how an entire nation can be programmed through a screen. And by the end of the video, I'll show you that more countries are repeating the same thing. In this video, you will learn about the 4 channels that exist in North Korea. You will see how even children's cartoons are used as political weapons, and you will understand why watching a South Korean drama could end up landing you in prison. So, the first thing you need to know is how many TV channels exist in North Korea. The answer is 4. There are 4 channels. All of them are government-owned. There are no private channels, no competition, none of that. It's all state-run, all controlled by the government. The first and most important is KCTV, which means Korean Central Television. This channel was launched in 1963, and since then has been the main channel in North Korea. It's like taking the main channels from your country and merging them into one, but 1,000 times more controlled by the government. KCTV broadcasts from Pyongyang, the capital, and it's where all the important things in the country are shown. State news, official ceremonies, military parades, cultural events, and of course, lots and lots of propaganda. And it's not the kind of product advertisement propaganda, okay? That doesn't exist. It's propaganda of the government's ideology. I was getting tired of hearing songs about how great the country is, how great the leaders are, all the time when switching from one program to another. And there's an interesting detail here. Every day, you have the main newscast. And guess what the main subject of every edition is? Kim Jong-un. That's right. It doesn't matter the day. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. The main newscast always talks about what Kim Jong-un did that day. Another thing that I personally found very strange is that you will always see mini documentaries or certain programs telling stories about the ruler's family. The grandfather, Kim Il-sung, the father Kim Jong-il, and the current Kim Jong-un. You'll see documentaries about the 3, talking about their heroic deeds, how incredible they are, how they built that country, and how they are practically gods on Earth. The most interesting thing about KCTV is that its signal is transmitted by satellite. And that's why we can watch North Korean TV outside in some places. There are even international platforms that capture this signal and make it available. There are also recordings on sites that archive TV programs, so you can watch, you can see all this programming, just like I did. The creepiest part is that most of the time, it's simply a waiting screen and static noise like this. It's crazy to think that in 2025, there's a country broadcasting this 24 hours a day. The second channel is Hyunam Sam. Officially, it's an educational channel aimed at students, but don't expect to find cool classes like National Geographic documentaries or modern educational videos. Hyunam Sam broadcasts scientific documentaries, but almost always with a soundtrack and some context involving something military. Imagine you're trying to learn about anything, like math, but there's a marching band playing all the time. There's always some patriotic music, some theme involving that. They also have English, Russian, and Chinese classes. And it even makes sense, right? These are useful languages for diplomacy and trade with China. But it's not like Duolingo, casual lessons. All of this has an ideological bias, obviously. There's nothing like TED Talks or neutral content here. The third channel is Athletic Television, or Chaeyoon TV. It's a North Korean sports channel where you watch soccer, gymnastics. You also have documentaries about various types of sports. Apparently a normal thing, but it's not. Sports in North Korea aren't just about competition or entertainment. They are presented as a form of national strength, of national resistance. So every competition they have, for them, is a demonstration of the supposed strength of the country and their leadership. And this is not an exaggeration on my part. It's not simply a fallacy. The North Korean regime uses sports as a propaganda tool in a very well-documented way. They promote the Juche ideology, which is basically the idea of the country's self-sufficiency. And that's also through sports. There are academic studies on this. The Iji Society, for example, has entire articles on how sports and ideology in North Korea go hand in hand. And it's not a recent thing, okay? This has been going on since the 60s, when the country started using sports as a way to try to show the world that North Korea is superior. And finally, you have Sunday TV. This channel is generally presented as a channel aimed at an external audience. So the idea would be to show North Korea to the world, like a showcase. But in practice, they just take the same programs that air on other channels and throw them on Sunday. Sometimes some segments are narrated in English to give it that international channel vibe. But the content is basically the same. 4 channels, all government, all controlled, all transmitting the same message. And most importantly, you don't have much choice. You turn on the TV, and that's what you're going to watch. There's no streaming, no cable, no YouTube. It's this or nothing. Over 90% of households in North Korea have a television. When you see this number, it even seems like a normal thing, right? Oh, so everyone has access to TV. But it's not quite like that. Not at all. All? I said all. The televisions in North Korea are locked. You can't change the channel because the channels are locked. You can't connect an external antenna because the antennas are blocked. You can't pick up signals from outside the country because all external signals are blocked. The government conducts regular inspections in homes, especially in border regions, to ensure that the channels remain locked, and also to punish violations, so to speak. This can lead to quite severe punishments, okay? Your TV only receives the signal that comes from the state tower. That's it. There's no negotiation, no jury rigging, or anything like that. You turn on your television and receive exactly what the government wants you to see. There are sources that indicate that in border areas, some people manage to access foreign content illegally via modified or smuggled TVs. But this is very risky. So in the end, it's like having a phone that only calls one number. Technically, you have a device, but it serves no purpose beyond what it was programmed to do. The impression this gives is that TVs are designed for one purpose only: to disseminate the Juche ideology and glorify the Kim leadership, with no options for alternative content. And you know what's the most ironic part of this? The TVs aren't even manufactured in North Korea. They're usually Chinese, and there are reports of imports from some nearby countries. That's right, the country that keeps talking about self-sufficiency, resistance against the West, how independent and strong they are, uses imported technology to supposedly control its own population. But what about the internet? Well, technically there is internet in North Korea. But this is something that's going to leave you a little upset. The network's name is Gwangmyeong. And no, it's not real internet. It's a national intranet. It's a closed network, isolated from the rest of the world, with only a few thousand government-approved sites. Imagine an internet where you can only access sites created and controlled by the state. Are there news sites? Yes, but they are all filtered. Is there something similar to Wikipedia? Yes, but it's just a censored copy, where only the official version of history made by the government exists. Are there social networks, email, anything remotely similar to what we know as the internet? No, there isn't. And look, not everyone has access to this limited internet. Only a trustworthy elite can use it. We're talking about some university students, government employees, and small groups that have permission. The general population, zero access. Nothing, not even to this fake internet, let alone the real internet. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, we're here complaining that the internet was down for 5 minutes. And there you have 25 million people living completely disconnected from global reality. They have no idea what Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, Google, nothing is. And it's not because they don't want to, it's because they are prevented. And if you're thinking, oh, there must be a way, right? Install a hidden satellite dish. Pick up a signal from some satellite, forget it. Receiving foreign signals in North Korea is a crime. And it's not just a fine or a warning, no. We're talking about a serious crime that can land you in a forced labor camp or even worse. The government knows that other antennas are a gateway for external content, and they definitely don't want that. So there is constant surveillance. Neighbors report neighbors. Anything that seems suspicious, a piece of metal on the roof, a different cable, can result in a report and the government knocking on your door. There are even groups of people who gather at rivers that run between the two countries to throw bottles into the rivers with USB drives full of foreign content in an attempt to give locals access to some outside content, but nothing with much success. Now let's talk about what actually airs on North Korean TV, because it's one thing to know there are 4 controlled channels. It's another to understand what a full day of programming looks like. And man, this seems like a very strange dream. TV in North Korea doesn't broadcast 24 hours. KCTV, which is the main channel, broadcasts only about 7 hours a day during the week. The other channels operate even less time due to electricity shortages and economic problems. And every minute of this programming is calculated to shape what you think. The day starts with the national anthem. No cartoons, no cooking shows. You wake up with the country's anthem playing while images of Mount Paekdu, which is considered sacred there, appear. You have national flags and messages like our leader gave us another day. All this followed by poems, songs, and more images of mountains, flags, and military marches. It's like a morning ritual, only mandatory. The news airs twice a day, and the duration varies according to how many news stories the channel can invent. And look, there's a very clear pattern that repeats religiously. First, praises to Kim Jong-un, always. The respected supreme leader did this, did that. Then comes a segment showing how foreign countries show respect to the great leader. At some point, the tone shifts to reprimand the United States, directly or indirectly. There was even a time when ABC News journalists spent an entire week watching North Korean TV in 2018 and found out that 6 whole minutes of the program were dedicated just to criticizing the United States. Not that criticizing the United States is wrong, okay? But there is no criticism of their own country. And there are reports about factories. 13 minutes during that week were dedicated to showing factories, including a multi-minute report about Kim Jong-un visiting a factory on a Friday. No videos, just photos. And the anchor explaining how Kim motivated the workers to achieve quality and improve the facilities. And as a North Korea expert, Ahn Chang-il, a defector who now runs a research institute in Seoul, said, "When the broadcast reports that productivity is growing, there's a good chance the report is fabricated. They only report what Kim wants to hear." To a citizen of Pyongyang watching that TV, North Korea must seem like a very prosperous nation. Everything looks beautiful, and production just keeps increasing. And of course, no one is suffering from anything. No human rights violations, nothing of the sort. Between programs, beautiful landscapes appear, mountains, the city of Pyongyang, all polished and modern, all to instill in the viewer's mind that they live in the most beautiful country in the universe. Another strange thing is that almost always, when they talk about the world outside North Korea, everything is bad and worse than there. They talk about how the president of South Korea is a traitor, how Donald Trump is a war lunatic. They talk about diseases, about people dying in various countries, in China, Hong Kong, Pakistan, Japan, Canada, Germany, everywhere. And the message is very clear. Foreign countries are sinking, and you should be grateful for living in North Korea. All this is said in a very firm tone, as if the channel is just revealing the truth. On North Korean TV, the country always portrays itself as a victim, attacked by almost everyone, and always as victims of imperialism. But to be honest here, there is a moment in this programming that is very honest: the weather forecast. It is literally the only moment where everything you see on TV corresponds to reality. Between programs, you don't have commercials, but the breaks are filled with propaganda music. And mind you, this music is good, all right? It's not bad. They're very catchy, in fact. North Korea has very talented musicians. Unfortunately, they use this talent to create propaganda that sticks in your head. KCTV also spends an hour a day on children's films, but even a children's film is full of instructive intentions, and they are often very direct. If you watch these cartoons, you'll feel like you're going back to the 80s. Animation techniques from decades ago, strange graphics, 2D animations, with a somewhat old-fashioned look, some that are even cool, all right? That have interesting animation, an interesting style, but clearly serving as another arm of the country's propaganda. And of course, there's Boy General, the most famous cartoon. Visually, it's even beautiful, all right? It has an anime aesthetic, a very neat animation, but each episode is a political lesson disguised as a children's story. The main character is like a mini revolutionary soldier. The villains are always representations of imperialism, and the day ends with another part of the main news broadcast to ensure you didn't forget what the great leader did today for the country. A bit more anthem and music, a lot for Aketu again, images of Kim Jong-un with the people, and a good night that sounds more like a "don't forget what you saw today." Now, the part that should really scare you in all this is that this doesn't happen only in North Korea.